So the Chainsaw Man manga with part 2 has just did something that honestly makes me feel like this series has gone to the wayside. This series has become what some might argue a bit on the garbage side. And not the good kind of garbage either. I'm talking about like, yo, it just feels like a waste of time at this point. Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo has just accumulated a massive amount of haters after the latest leaks came in that has people looking at the series and comparing it to some of the downsides of Fairy Tail. Can't believe I'm saying that, but yeah, that's what the people are saying. And the latest events in Boruto has something very significant that is about to happen with Sarada Uchiha, the daughter of Sasuke, based on what's been going on of her utilizing her powers. Yeah, this is not looking good for the Uchiha gal. But I don't want to waste any more of your time. Let's talk about it. Well, before we continue, hit that subscribe button and that bell so you can get notified on anything and everything in the world of anime and manga. Hit them buttons. Okay, yeah, so I'm going to be talking about 3 different series in this video. I'm not going to get in depth with each chapter. I'm just basically going to talk about some of the highlights of stuff that just kind of had me a little bit like, whoa. And I guess we'll start off with Chainsaw Man. Chainsaw Man's latest chapter honestly was very disappointing. The writing of Chainsaw Man has been for a while now, ever since it hit part 2, but as part 2 has gone on, has been somewhat ridiculous. Some might argue differently. Feel free to share your thoughts in the comment section below, as respectful as you can. But ultimately, this series just isn't the same. Like, it hasn't been the same since part 1, and part 2 has only got more ridiculous, and in essence, honestly, has, in my opinion, failed to produce what Denji should have become. After the end of part 1 of Chainsaw Man, Denji should have really, I don't want to say grown up, but ultimately there should be aspects of his character that should be non-existent at this point. After the end of part 1 of Chainsaw Man, you would have thought like, yo, with everything that happened, all of the responsibilities on Denji's back, like, he would have been different. But you get to Chainsaw Man part 2, and in the beginning, well, you've seen what was going on, and throughout the series, we've seen yet time and time again that Denji has been betrayed one time after another by several different people for being trusting, but that's not even necessarily the element that I'm disappointed about, because, you know, it happens at the end of the day. It's a crazy world, and ultimately you never know what people are about to do. This latest event had me looking at Denji like, why? And there's an article about it that I feel actually puts it and sums it up greatly, so let's read. If you don't read Chainsaw Man or anything, you will understand that Denji, well, this character that started off in part 1 as like, you know, he's just destitute and horny, ultimately was supposed to have changed by now. But yeah, let's read. Shonen Jump's most popular dark manga is still stuck on the same tired trope. Shonen Jump's darkest manga continues to use the same trope for its protagonist, and it's high time he received some development. Most shonen protagonists are built using the same formula. They have grand world-saving ambitions and take action to achieve those goals. However, one shonen series has stepped away from this traditional mold and crafted its protagonists around highly unconventional tropes. That series is Tatsuki Fujimoto's Chainsaw Man, and its protagonist is Denji. Chainsaw Man is famous for how it distinguishes itself from other shonen series, and his biggest distinction lies in Denji. Amid the abundance of shonen protagonists with unrealistic goals, Denji, who has had a rough childhood, only wanted a normal life. Once he was able to eat 3 meals a day, his next desire became getting a girlfriend, specifically implying that he wanted to get intimate with a girl. Ever since he became a devil hunter and could fulfill basic human needs, he has taken actions driven by that desire, leading to many poor decisions. Girls have repeatedly manipulated Denji through his desires, and in the latest chapter, he once again makes a major decision based on his sexual impulses, one that could potentially lead to the end of the world. Not once or twice, but Denji has been manipulated 3 times because of his sexual impulses. Makima and Rize exploited his weakness in part 1 of the manga, and those experiences were traumatic enough that they should have given him the character development needed to avoid being manipulated by Yoru in the same way. However, Yoru exploited Denji as well and manipulated him into her scheme, which eventually led to a major battle in which Denji fought the War Devil. After an intense fight, it seemed like Denji had won, but the latest chapter showed him making yet another decision driven by his impulses that completely turned the tables. Spoiler alert, by the way. In chapter 229, titled Nightjar and Asa, as Yoru was bleeding out, Denji approached her and fed her his own blood. When Yoru asked why he would do that and give up the fight, Denji explained that he saved her because she had promised to have sex with him if he ate a dangerous devil. Giving up a battle where the fate of the world is at stake for the possibility of getting intimate with a girl who could have easily been lying perfectly encapsulates Denji's character. However, since this trope has been repeated multiple times, it feels boring and adds nothing new to the narrative. The consequences of his decision are still unknown, and the next chapter will reveal what Yodo plans to do with Denji. Unless this turns out to be a clever strategy by Denji to deceive Yodo and secure victory, Chainsaw Man risks losing its uniqueness by reusing a tired trope that does not move the story forward. And I'm gonna throw in an addendum as far as the fact that if he is utilizing this idea and utilizing this as a tactic to, you know, get one over on her, then by all means, well played, and I take back what I'm saying about Chainsaw Man right now. I can do that. I reserve that right. However, as it stands right now, this lack of character development, this continuing on with this same tired trope that should have been over with, like, yo, Denji's been through so much. Denji's done a lot. And the fact that that's still kind of, like, obviously any dude is, of course, going to have, you know, somewhat of a goal. There's nothing wrong with that. But the way that they have painted Denji as far as him being just desperate and willing to do anything for a slither of the punani, it's tired, it's old, it's lame. It's like, how much more are we going to continue to see Denji make the same mistake going after the punani? And I'm sorry to get a little bit graphic with my wording, but that's just genuinely what it is. Denji's writing and Chainsaw Man as a whole at this particular point feels beyond ridiculous. And this is coming from somebody that actually really appreciated Chainsaw Man 1, appreciated what the story represented, but after a certain point, the series, even as ridiculous as it was, and it's been, the foundation of it at the very least has been, ultimately Denji's character should have changed by now. And unless this is a massive tactic by Denji, ultimately it just feels ridiculous. And that's one of the things why I hate when people try and compare or say that Chainsaw Man and Tokyo Ghoul are similar because of certain aspects, maybe the aesthetics or something like that. Let's be very clear. Chainsaw Man and Tokyo Ghoul, two very different series, very different characters. Chainsaw Man is essentially driven by desire. Tokyo Ghoul is true love, honesty, devotion, like everything that Ken Kaneki would do for his people, for Toka. That is a whole different ball game. It's just pure. Chainsaw Man is just, honestly, it's been this way, but it even more so feels cemented when you hear things like this. It just feels like raunchy filth. And sometimes raunchy filth is entertaining, but after a certain point is like, yeah, I don't know. I can't get jiggy with that element. I can't get jiggy with this series, and this is why I've said for a while now, like, I try to step back from Chainsaw Man, and I don't really talk about Chainsaw Man like that because of aspects like this. It's like, what are we doing here? So yeah, just wanted to throw that in there as far as like, don't compare Tokyo Ghoul, don't compare. They're all different characters, different people. They're just very, very different. Do not do that. And yeah, I guess I just had to let this one off, this rant, because I feel like Chainsaw Man, there's so much potential there, and it just feels like Fujimoto just kind of always reverts back to the same old tropes that is like, we get it. Denji, you know, he was a horny dude for a long time. Why are we still revisiting this? Like, can't we have him go into a different element, or can't you write some characters, some females that are actually, you know, not trying to fuck him over? I'm just saying. But then moseying on over to Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo, without getting into really any big spoilers, if you're a Jujutsu Kaisen fan, then you kind of know what's going on. And if you don't, essentially in one of the latest leaks, it seems as though they're doing some sort of Battle of Gods holding hands event with some of the main characters. At the very least, I know the names of, I think, like 3 of them. It's Maru the alien, Yuka, Suguri, and I think there's like Maru's twin brother, and like they're all holding hands, and it seems like they're all coming into some harmonious event. And a lot of people are very upset about that. They're like, oh, this is going the fairy tale route. I can't believe it. Gege did it again. Because in case you don't know, the ending of the Jujutsu Kaisen manga, a lot of people hated that too. I doubt that's going to translate when the anime comes, because it seems as though manga readers are the most critical and harshest when it comes to the ending. And then suddenly when the anime comes along, everybody loves it. Attack on Titan, manga, everybody hated it. Anime comes along, everybody loves it. So even if like people are hating on this right now, which we're still in this whole thing of leak culture, of people reading a leak or two and being like, oh my god, it's the worst thing ever. It's like, bro, first of all, wait until the whole chapter comes out. Second of all, if everything is being on some peaceful stuff, the whole idea of Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo is essentially like, you know, these aliens that came to Earth to try and see if they can coexist in alignment with, you know, these sorcerers, these Jujutsu sorcerers, and humanity as a whole. And there's obviously been some static in between all of this stuff. stuff. There's been a lot of events that have occurred since then, but ultimately that's one of the primal essence of this spin-off sequel series. And if they've reached some sort of resolution where they can all coexist, which this isn't necessarily the end, I think there's like 2 to 3 more chapters at the very least coming for this thing, but if they're able to do that, then that's a cool message. That's a great message, and I don't see why people are going to be flipping out like, oh my god, peace was resolved. Like, a seeking for understanding, alignment, and peace is kind of one of the core elements of Modulo to begin with. So if they do reach that aspect, why not? Seems like Jujutsu Kaisen fans, or it just seems like in general manga fans, don't like it when things are actually ending on a good note, on a positive note. Like, why does everything have to be doom and gloom? Why does everything have to be tragedy? And then even when they get that, a la Attack on Titan, manga fans still be tripping and bugging. So there's just no pleasing manga fans. There's gonna be a section, there's no pleasing everybody in general. Like, there's always gonna be a section of a fandom that is going to feel some type of way regardless. I'd say if you're a creative or whatnot, take this as a lesson that just write the story that you want to write, do it to the best of your capability, and keep it going, because this is another prime example of everybody has been champion and saying Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo is one of the best sequels, one of the best spin-offs. This is incredible, the writing is great, Gege at their best, and then come the last few chapters, here we go again of people dunking on it, saying this is garbage, this is terrible. I've seen people comparing it to the Care Bears. I don't know, shout out to the Care Bears, because I don't get what they got to do with any of this. But yeah, it just seems like you're never gonna please everybody, so just do your best. And for me personally, I'm gonna keep on enjoying this ride until the end. And shout out to Jujutsu Kaisen, shout outs to Gege. When this gets animated, I am almost certain that the same people that are talking crap are gonna be praising it and saying, oh my god, it's great, and the anime did great for it, even though it'll be damn near the same story. It's just that I don't know what it is about manga endings. But yeah, Jujutsu Kaisen fans are tripping over the latest chapter of Modulo. And then last, but of course certainly not least, I normally do a whole entire video of this, but to be honest with you, there was just a couple events that I really wanted to talk about the latest chapter of BORUTO TBV Vortex, chapter 31. One of the major aspects that I wanted to cover is the fact that, in case you don't know, when it comes to the Uchiha clan, basically like Sasuke or whatnot, when they have a certain eye power called the Mangekyo Sharingan, if they utilize it too much, then essentially at some given point they start to lose their sight. They start to lose the ability to see certain things, or to see. And based off the latest chapters, it seems as though Sasuke's daughter Sarada Uchiha has reached that point, and she's starting to not be able to see. After this battle that she's had with these clone divine tree people, her eyesight starts to get a little bit weakened, and it starts to look a little bit blurry for her. And it seems as though Sarada has reached a point where she's not going to be able to see soon if she doesn't get that upgrade. And what that upgrade entails is essentially she needs another set of Uchiha eyes to be able to essentially evolve her form from the Mangekyo Sharingan to the EMS Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan. Problem with that is the only person that could possibly do that for her is her father, Sasuke Uchiha. And considering the fact that, as the story has showcased up until this point, Sasuke is still in the tree, ultimately that's not even an option at this point, assuming even if it did came, because you got to remember one major factor, Sasuke doesn't have the other eye right now. So even if he was to give her anything, it would only be able to have one eye for her, so she would only be essentially like a one-eyed Uchiha as well. So therein lies a major problem for the character. How do we go moving forward with this thing? I mean, they might do some, which I hope they don't, because it's going to be such a cop-out, but they could potentially go the route of technology has advanced so much they figured out a way to fix the Mangekyo. I would hate that, I'll be honest with you. Like, it's already been established, in order to evade the situation, similar to when Sasuke went absolutely insane, you know, in the Kage Summit, the 5 Kage Summit, and started annihilating people, and he basically needed that surgery. He needed to use Itachi's eyes in order to be able to see again. Ultimately, it's supposed to be the same scenario. Obviously, things have been different. The way Sarada even got Mangekyo was very different than most of the other Uchiha. Her version of Mangekyo Sharingan was essentially like following Kawaki's wish on Ada to have the entirety of the shinobi world go after Boruto and look at him as an enemy. Sarada pleads with her father Sasuke to look after Boruto and help save him. Out of desperation for Sasuke to believe her because his memories and reality have been overwritten, Sarada undergoes an emotional transformation that awakens her Mangekyo Sharingan, the pain and sadness of what was going on with Boruto, and trying to explain it to her father, which some might argue, oh, that's a little bit. Gotta remember also that Sarada is a younger female, so when stuff happens to her, it's going to feel a lot more traumatic to her, opposed to like a hardened, grown-ass man that, yeah, it's gonna take a lot to make that motherfucker snap. But essentially, yeah, this is one situation that is like, there's a couple of different routes I guess they could try to take it. Obviously, it would be a very cheap cop-out to say technology's advancements will solve that problem. Sasuke right now is in a tree, and ultimately, he only has the one eye anyway. It could go the route of revisiting the contents of the Shin Uchiha situation, where there was the underground lab with like 50 trillion Uchiha eyes that Danzo collected from back in the day, so that's a possibility as well. Honestly, it would be amazing if they introduced a new Uchiha character that somehow came from somewhere. Like, that would be, I don't know. Doesn't seem like Boruto has really been taking those type of risks of, you know, introducing a new character that would be so profound as a new Uchiha. Then again, like, that could itself spawn a whole new film if they was to introduce a new Uchiha character. And other than those routes, I'm not sure how else they would go about fixing this situation so Sarada doesn't be completely blind to the world and not be able to see what's happening. And in general, considering the situation is pretty dire at this particular point, we're facing some very incredible threats and we need everybody we possibly can. Sarada needs to step it up, and something needs to give very quickly, because she was actually very much so useful on the battlefield. She was zapping those bug clones like they were nothing, utilizing her Mangekyo capabilities. So yeah, they need to figure out something quick. A few other significant things in the chapter is, it seems as though the divine tree creature is now about to head with all of his clones towards Ada. Kobu managed to survive after Shikamaru and Sai went to the rooftop, so now Kobu is indeed alive, and it seems as though he's not finished with interrogating Shikamaru, because he's going to get to the bottom of this. I really hope by the time things is all said and done and they're able to talk again, that essentially everybody's memories is swapped back, and somehow, some way, Ada's ability is already done. Like, it's been a long time. It's been a long time of everybody being with this whole memory swap situation. I would like for it to be that when push comes to shove, they realize, oh, okay, because it just feels like a nonsensical plot thread. Like, what are they gonna do at this particular point? You know what I mean? Like, I guess if they're gonna try and hold down Shikamaru and, you know, question him, interrogate him, and keep him away, but that just feels like, in all honesty, this whole situation with the Kobu is like, well, we heard what the Toad said. The Toad said basically like he's better off, you know, but we'll see how that goes. And of course, Boruto aura farming, but I'm not gonna complain about it, because if I could champion it for other series like solo leveling, I don't want to, you know, downplay it. And yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say on that. Let me know what you guys think about this though. For starters, for Chainsaw Man fans, how do you feel about these latest events with Denji and his character regression? Jujutsu Kaisen fans, do you think that Modulo is ruined with this latest, you know, holding hands and heading towards potentially peace event? And of course, Boruto fans, what do you think about the latest events? Do you think Sarada is gonna go blind? But that's all I have for this one. I'm Tim. As always, people, have an awesome day. Peace in.